I can almost remember what skin feels
Hello
like.
and welcome everybody to the very first hybrid open. Yeah, this is
Everybody got
amazing. I don't know about you guys, but I have butterflies in my belly and my head feels off the beat and I don't intend to anymore. But everybody seems to be a little bit giddy tonight, which is great. Hello to everybody out there online, and just to let everybody know, this is the camera that the people online can see. So if you're walking past, you might just want to weave into this camera over here, or this one over here, which is giving you a view of me in there. So I have to try and figure out where to look. I've got a lovely audience over there, so I try not to do my back too much. And try not to get down my head too much. Woo! Woo! All right, so we're here, hybrid, and I'm the guinea pig MC. Bring it on. I try not to fail too terribly, but if I do fail, sure what? I'm sure you'll forgive me. So I suppose I'll just tell you how the night runs. So we start with the 5-word challenge, and then we will have announcements, followed by guest poets, followed by the open mic. Now, on a regular open mic, we would have breaks in between all of these things. But tonight, there's going to be no break. So, so you just have to be discreet about getting up to the bar and filling your glasses, and if you want to go out for a cigarette, go for a cigarette. Be your own boss, lads, and take your breaks as you please. So I suppose without further ado, we're going to do the 5-word challenge. And I guess we're going to be taking words from the room and also from the online guests. So it's kind of like the first 5 words. And before I go any further, I have to say fall. I know I am biased. I think information anyway, in spite of all this, but it has worked his lovely ass off to make this happen.
Thank you.
And so he's going to be looking after the online things. So like backup support there, and even though I'm just the backup support for that, because a whole lot of stuff going on there. There's 3 laptops. Don't even ask me because I could not tell you. But yeah, all of us is that off. And thank you. Right, that's enough for Paul. So now, 5 words from you.
Hybrid.
5 words. Huh?
Hybrid.
Hybrid.
Battery.
Battery.
Chaos from
Yellow and chaos. So that's 4 words. With one more.
autumnal from Suglu.
Autumnal. Okay. So the 5 words are hybrid, battery, yellow, chaos, and autumnal. You have 15 minutes.
Can you repeat those, please, or put them in the chat?
Sure, I think Paul is going to put them in the chat now, but I will repeat them for you, Paul. Hybrid, battery, yellow, chaos, and autumnal.
And what was the last one? Chaos and what?
Autumnal.
Oh, autumnal. Thank you.
Paul for you guys, so that's.
Are we supposed to make a haiku?
it's terrible to break that beautiful silence. There's nothing quite like the silence of a room full of people writing. It's like, I don't know, the room is pertinent with poems, you could reach out and just unravel. And I'm sure we are going to do just that. And I have to say, all the feeling you said, it was a bit like first day back at school, that feeling. And in the middle of that, I glanced over at Margaret and Catherine. And it really was like the first day back at school, the two girls speaking down the back of the class. So, happy days. So here we are. So the microphone is open. I guess I need to explain to the people online that we're going to listen to the phone to the people in the room first, and then you will have your day. So if you remain mute for now, and after we've had everybody in the room read their books, we will open the floor to you guys. So the mic is open. Let's select everybody.
Cool. That's the phone just very fast here. I call my phone Bob. There was something about Bob, so different in a red dress. A cheeky chap with yellow nose, clinging on to chaos with a smile. A hybrid kind of girl, neither here nor there. An autumnal lover on his bit, a cloak of russet, crown of thorns, pockets full of nonsense. But oh, how perfect he was, my Bob, my battery, 100 boyfriend. Awesome for a friend. Diego 23. A hybrid home, we welcome the yellow log with their bones, open arms, 3 weeks of chaos, autumnal decay on my face, battery running low. Not sure how this will go. You're challenging me at being colossal life change. Wish I knew what you were thinking. Christ, your fart is stinking me that. This too shall pass. Let's hope you settle. Hope will help me go.
It's great seeing you all. My feet click on the yellow corroded batteries that pebble the shore, looking upon the polystyrene cliffs shadowed over the chaos waves, framed with a tapestry of motorways. The scarlet hybrid crabs promise environmental politics while cracking energy cans with those jaw claws. Then I dig up a fossil, an autumnal amber, put it to my lips as if to kiss and ask, what is your view on greenhouse gas?
Go on.
Go on.
Can you hear me? Yeah. The chaos in her belly simmered as her half-flat social battery showed glimmers of life. She looked around and saw others meshing together like an intricate hand-weaving blanket. Autumnal colours encompassing yet exhilarating hybrid strain of collective consciousness. She soaked herself in the
Hello? Where are you? Do you remember where you were? The day that Order died? The day we battered Order and put it on to deep fry? Turn it up on high. Do you remember? Do you remember when it all fell? Society, humanity, or sanity? Like those burnt yellow leaves we would crunch under shoes in those tame autumnal days we once called chaos. Do you remember when nothing was left? Only a hybrid of darkness meets death? Well, where were you? Do you remember? People are still lighting in the room, and you want to jump up before it goes beyond 9 people. McCarthy, Smith. Hybrid, year on year, Paul's wizardry of 3 laptops contains secret. Lined up on the head, plucking battery ends, low happy chatterings, low flying hopes, calling mystery loads, surreal. Chaos split all riches. Yellow hazard signs arrested us. The fraternity of our Gucci energy misnuances, twists of smirks that hint not too sure about this. No feedback from behind my laptop. Parked up in the aisle, brave and field autumnal branches grace the leaf. Its harvest of young lovers word. Sycamore branches, leaves, green down, strewn before us. On our via Appia, the Appia way to the long time today. We've taken it easy on the gin and tonic, the pints, or I did quite one grounded by different kinds of points. Oh, Virginia, oh, kind of 54, that's interest. Go away too long to pressure our flesh. From your hybrid walking blended and all there. Oh, that's a happy ending, no. I managed to just wedge autumnal in there. An electronic storm has blasted into the atmosphere, blown the batteries of every phone, eking out toxic yellow juice. They say the internet won't be back for another year. We'll need to take Polaroids of our lunches, autumnal fragrance coffees, drop them into neighbors' letterboxes. Why not drive around with a self-portrait strapped onto the top of the car like Kim Jong-il? How else would we get our fill? Or would losing this hybrid life, this digital self, help stop the chaos?
The long overdue and much anticipated return of the hot air balloon will be hitting our skies this coming season, powered on a hybrid of solar battery, paraffin, and autumnal breeze. This gentle but graceful beast of a basket will take you wherever it is you want to go, as far as the limits of your imagination will allow, provided that your imagination is limited to moderately breezy sunny days and your thirst for adventure only strikes in autumn and is quenched by the maximum radius achievable by the relatively small tank of paraffin on board. Attempts to install a bigger tank of paraffin resulted in varying degrees of chaos, which came as a stark reminder as to why the hot air balloon was discontinued all those years ago. How and ever, please do not be discouraged. Caution is encouraged, also available in yellow.
If I could push your breath back to the start during respiration, using a hybrid battery with and breath, and then hybrid is more together and also
Anybody else in the room? We can come back to you. We can go to the online people and come back to the room. Motion. Yeah.
blue and yellow skies, full of energy after warm temperature. Dried mango fills my battery on a hunt for fruits of the flat. My trusty old hybrid brings me far away from the chaos of the city on its journey woods. The woods are full of crab apples, mushrooms, and discarded cats.
Is that for everyone in the room? Yeah. Great, wow.
Wow, right?
That's hard act to follow, but I'm sure you're going to do your best. So let me check out my online list there. So first up for the 5 words on the online people is Catherine Baden. So if you don't mind unmuting yourself and sharing your phone with us, that would be great. Thank you.
Is that me? Me? Did they say me?
Yeah.
Hi, Catherine. Hi.
Yes.
I'm in Monterey and now I'm in Ireland, so we're time traveling. And I was just in the South in Savannah, Georgia. So my brain can't compute all this. I had a great bit of fun with this, though, I have to say, and it's lovely to be here. The battery is a hybrid. Well, can't you tell? Because instead of turning from red to green, it's just an ugly yellow. Yes, my car is once again stuck. It's stuck in the mud, and I'm in the middle of yet another messed up autumnal chaos. The end.
Thank you, Catherine. And now can we please have Sue Blue?
Thanks very, very much. Thanks a million. Unfortunately, it's been a little bit difficult for me to hear everyone through the mic, but that's something that hopefully will evolve. I don't have a title for this yet, so here we go. We are hybrids, bred from two chains, powered by batteries that beat the heart. A yellow beak for a mouth to speak of the things we can simply repeat, what the channels of trust are teaching us. Our feathers red, and when we spread our wings to fly over the chaos, flee the hybrid state of mind, flee from the chains of this electronic drive, rise instead of the autumnal world and see the earth with different eyes and listen to the planet, not the old channels, to see there is nowhere to flee. So just breathe and be. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, Sue, and apologies that you can't hear us on the mic. I guess those of us that are reading, maybe we need to just give it a bit more welly on the mic. Next up, can we please have Ruth?
Thank you. Despite all your roaring, I've only got a few words to say. It's called You and I. Yellow leaves, autumnal chaos. This hybrid touch, this battery electrified.
I hope you can all hear the response to the rest of it's a good response to that. And now can we please have a Massimo?
Can you all hear me okay? Okay, all right. There's some audio difficulties on this end, but so glad to be here and see you all in your natural habitat. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, all right. There's some audio difficulties on this end, but so glad. I am not just this or that, just black or just white, just flesh or just spirit. I am a hybrid. My body of energy is not just a battery, it's also a conductor, making anything conducive to experience. The possibilities are so endless, you would think that everything would be chaos. But for some reason, we have seasons, we have clocks, we have clothes, we have language, and find a strange paradoxical luxury in being human, that we can enjoy the unpredictability and the vastness of what we do not know through the safe medium of unbelievably dependable controls. That's the only reason that I can attend an autumnal poetry event in a country all the way across the world, in the middle of a galaxy where the sun is so hot that it turns me yellow from a million miles away. And so honored to be here. Thank you all for showing me love for so long. Thank you, thank you.
Say that again. Say that again. Thanks.
If Pam could now read her poem, that would be great.
Okay, this is a haiku of sorts. Hybrid electric, driverless yell ode autumnal chaos.
Okay, that has been everybody, unless there is anybody else in the room that didn't get up and would like to get up. Okay, so I know you couldn't hear all the poems in the room, so that was maybe a bit tricky for the clapometer, because usually with the online avail, people type in the name of the winner followed by winner, and then we figure out who the winner is. But at a usual avail, it's the clapometer in my brain that decides, which is very hard. So it would be great if we could get some help from the online participants. And if you put a name with a winner at the end of it, it'll take like 1 minute, as fast as you can. Type that into the chat. Paul will tally that up, and then if your winner kind of tallies with the winner in the clapometer brain, we find the winner somehow.
Yeah, that was awesome. I don't know. I don't know. Everyone was great. No.
We have a winner.
Okay.
Yeah, so the online people, it was unanimous, well, 3 out of 5 of each chose Massimo. And I would say that I gave these little marks for the clapometer, so there was 3 people that got 10. There was Augustina, Massimo, and yourself, Roisin. So Massimo, you are well done, Massimo. We're going to be sending you 3 books. 5-word challenge anthology, and Twin Skies, which is an anthology of poems of all the poets that have engaged in an exchange with Coventry. That's the way you've got lots of really good poets in there, and very special Dawn.
Thank you so much.
So, this is Julie Stevens first selection, and most recent selection. She's in the room, but I think she's just to give herself a little break. And a lot of it is in Irish Massimo, so that might be tricky. But hopefully it'll be a pleasure to discuss. Thank you everyone for participating. And thank you for the reminder, Paul. Massimo, can you please share your poem with us one more time?
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you for the reminder, Paul. Massimo, can you please share your poem with us?
I am not just this or just that, just black or just white, just flesh or just spirit. I am a hybrid. My body of energy is not just a battery, it's also a conductor. making anything conducive to experience. The possibilities are so endless, you would think that everything would be chaos. But for some reason, we have seasons, we have clocks, we have clothes, we have language, and find a strange, paradoxical luxury in being human, that we can enjoy the unpredictability and the vastness of what we do not know through the safe medium of unbelievably dependable controls. It's the only reason that I can attend an autumnal poetry event in a country way across the world, in the middle of a galaxy where the sun is so hot that it turns me yellow from a million miles away. And thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you deeply.
Well deserved.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you, Massimo. And I should say, Max, you got 10 marks as well. And so did you, Kirill. I just couldn't see it all there. Okay, so announcements. Right. So we have the 9-5-word international poetry competition is still ongoing, and the words for this week from the 12th to 15th are okay, clock, twist, and rain. So you get a little heads up, everybody, and everybody online, if you choose to enter that 5-word competition. International. So the words again are okay, clock, late, twist, and rain. And you have a week to make your poems, and then you can submit them to ovail.ie. Our next hybrid event next month will be dedicated to the much loved Josie, who's passed away ago. Regular here, and right from the beginning, actually. He was from long before I was the face, and he used stories. So it's very humorous and sometimes like poems. Next will be dedicated his friends and people here tonight will be able to do some of his writing. And the winter warmer is on it, winter warmer. Ooh. That's going to be the last of that. Also going to be after it. Will be there, and I have a new word here. It's going to be simulcast. So it can be simultaneously cast from multiple platforms, which is amazing. So those of you that can't be here in Cork, you can still tune in and get some really great poems from all over, poets from all over the world in November, the last weekend of November. Okay. Great. Okay, and then much sooner and not too far away, the Cork Short Story Festival is starting tomorrow and running until Saturday. It's an amazing festival, I think all online. So that's with Munster Literature Centre. So you'll find them online, and I wish they have a massive lineup of short story writers. It'll be amazing. So tune into that. And also, I guess, thank you for your donations. We have a donation jar under the horse's head, but we're not going to send it around because that would be germy. And we've all become very germy in the last while. So we won't send it around, but if you want to put whatever you have in there, well, obviously not whatever you have, but a fraction of that would be much appreciated. And of course, if you don't have anything, that's perfectly fine too. And you can also make donations online through our PayPal, which you will find www.obale.ie/blog/contact-us/. That's a big one. Anyway. Okay, so that was the announcements. And now I will introduce our guest poets for tonight. And I think maybe you can see Dean in your camera. He's right down the very end of the room, waving. Very good. And we are very happy to have Dean here tonight. He has been to Obale many times before. And we also have Neil McCarthy, who is on our screen here. Hi, Neil. I meet you in person one day. Paul was telling me about you, and I'd like to meet you someday. That would be great. But for now, I will have to do with virtual, and I'm sure that's going to be great as well. So I guess Dean will read first. Okay, so I'm going to introduce them both. I'll first introduce Neil and then Dean, and Dean will come up and read. And after that, Neil, you can take over from the virtual place. So, Neil McCarthy, he hails from West Cork. His first book of poems, Stopgap Grace, was published by Salmon in 2018 and subsequently shortlisted for the Shine Strong Award. His poems have appeared in dozens of international journals, in print and online, and have also been translated and published in Romanian, Serbian, Hungary, and in the Czech Republic. McCarthy has been a guest speaker in all sorts of exotic places such as Melbourne, Los Angeles, Amsterdam, and Ballydehob. He currently lives in Vienna, where he teaches English and sits in cafes, muttering poems away to himself, like the rest of us, no doubt. And his forthcoming collection, Little Empires, will be published in 2021. So we have that to look forward to after Dean. So now, Dean Browne. Dean Browne's poems have appeared in Banshee, Bath Mag, Poetry Ireland Review, the Poetry Review, Poetry Southward, The Stinging Fly, and Everywhere. He won the Geoffrey Dermer Prize in 2021, well done, and was a winner of the Poetry Business Pamphlet Competition 2021. So it's been a good year for you, Dean. Well done. Dean's pamphlet, Kitchens at Night, is forthcoming with Smith Doorstep in February 2022. So without further ado, I will give the mic to Dean Browne.
Hello.
Hello.
Like Bernard Clark and Blue Tonight, I'll just say, let's get straight in. First poem is called The Bathroom Ghost. I just turned 17 a day or two before, swung in on the grapevine to see the fortune teller. I heard she'd come to read the childless neighbors. She smoothed cards that were slick as screensavers, patterned on a cruciform. Nothing marked her psychic, car keys, faded denims, but the rumors focused on that blimp of lapis lazuli in one ear. It hovered like a third eye in the weirded air. Was it 10 years before the boy ghost appeared against the tiles in our bathroom mirror and smiled their smile? I can't say anymore exactly where I imagine, where I remember. I just slept on a bed of swords, and swords poked through hearts all over those archaic cards. She dragged her suitcase across the blue forest of my green germs. She unpacked it. So, nice to be back and to see faces that I remember from way before. The next poem I'm going to read is called Pine Box in the Flea Market. And came about from a visit to the old Mother Jones Flea Market just up the road there a few years ago. Pine Box in the Flea Market. There's Charles.
Hello, Charles.
Rab. Pine Box in the Flea Market. The japanned pine box with its cold brass handle and clasp makes mystery a room. You can hear me all right, can you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Opening it will be intimate, you think, like the sudden glimpse of a heel when she nips to the back, leaving you and the bedposts to interpret this new hush. The box is burnished orange brown, a finish the tint of Chilean myrtle, or something choked with paprika, with corners that could cut like fish hooks. Watch your thumbs. You want to poke about inside, to shuck it open with an oyster knife, spy in over the pine horizon, and wish, you're saying, wish. Inside, maybe a bunch of shrunken heads, a rosary of goat's teeth, bone, blushing. A pair of rusty rubber-handled pliers, the peekaboo, the tarantula. You are a horsefly learning immensity at the brink of a donkey's ear. You can just picture shouldering it home past bleeding candles, black veils, mourners falling into step, and the shops closing on McCarthy Street. Someone flips a leash on his dog. This is the clock's insomnia now. Your shoulder killing you all the way home to a room on a numberless avenue where blue snow is falling. This poem is called Rachel's Coat Inside Out. It's floating on a wire hanger now from the lowest branch of a corner of the forest. You unhook it, thumbs worrying stitches for what you missed last time in the dark, shifty material lining the interior. The slit left by a torn away button burns the nervous designs of moths flickering in and out of the collar. Your dreams make all kinds of nonsense. Blocked cabinets with cobwebs across the wobbly glass knobs. Rachel adjusts on her nothing shoulders the winter coat she'd have worn. The stitching so gone in the pockets, her hands believe they're bottomless. She could keep a rat in one, the teeth, the pink loop of tail brushed against us this close, and who would even know what she carried there? This poem concerns that kind of universal experience all of us can relate to, no exceptions, of brushing a pineapple to make sweet noises. It's after an ASMR recording by someone called the Ephemeral Rift. It's called a pineapple massage. This YouTube video of a guy massaging a bespectacled pineapple with joke shop nose, brushing its spiny leaves and knocking. Hello? Hello tension, hello recurrent twinge in the joint. Out you come. He whispers nothings to the fruit. His day has been so long. I've never seen food used like this. The algorithm knows. The dry leaves crickle. He can feel doors opening in the rind. And it's as if I've slipped through one and listened from inside. I'm alone. Oh, I might have laughed at this before. Somewhere there's a man who comforts the people by means of a pineapple. He schools the ear in his curriculum of touch. Yeah, even when he produces that big kitchen knife and carves past the leafy plume to consume his client chunk by chunk. So the blade sinks inches from my ear and the air brightens yellow with the summer pent inside and is palpable Just set my timer like home before that, but hopefully it'll be within time. This poem is called Aid Memoir. Goat has been following me for hours. There's a sign hung around his neck that reads, "Never forget." That's not very original, I think, but I'll see where it leads. I have no bra for you, goat, I say, and clap my hands, say, "Go." His goat eye asks if I'm half cracked. "Grand," I say, "keep walking." He follows at a discreet distance, beard jigging crooked as he jaws blankly at some grass he cropped years ago, I suppose. What am I meant to remember? Leaves are smeared on the street, a salad of dragged newspaper. Nobody appears to notice what's following me. I detour into a dive bar, roll a cigarette, drink a double whiskey, and try to decide where, if anywhere, all this might connect. Goat stands by the door, "Never forget," dripping to the tiles. I watch wet leaves fibrillate outside the window. Think of the small, delicate feather on this morning's egg. Leaf, light, leaf, light. Quick silverfish glimpses of a freedom that spooks on approach. The goat chews on, relentless. I mash my cigarette, touch my ear, and it comes off. This poem is called "Cannot Be Salvaged." "Make me scrambled eggs," you never said. "I will so," I said, and never did. That's it. For the season that's in it as well, here's a poem called Farm Breath. Mother of God. Two houseflies were making love. Well, that must have been their honeymoon. My grandmother struck them with a dishcloth. "The dirty fuckers," she said, sweeping them into her open pan like currents fallen from the barmbrack loaf, at the heart of which lay a golden ring. Yeah, it was on. This poem came about when I was living in Berlin, and I was in a pub, and I overheard two people kind of boasting competitively about their incomes. You know, there's a one-upmanship involved in it. I was looking for a job at the time, and kind of anticipating that awful question, you know, what do you do for a living? So I imagine myself as part of that conversation with these. The triangle. I should never have written the instruction manual illustrating the 52 distinct tones that can be struck from the triangle. Popular now in concert halls from here to Berlin. It's brought me nothing but success. The joke at first was exquisite as a deviled egg, and the expression on their faces like a sweet pimento. You put the phony in symphony tonight, bring back the shiny hand dryer and the gents. Jobs dropped, and I went on, describing the point tapped just so for the blackbird's dome trill, the ripple on a clear lake in Sweden, the squeak of gas that jets from a roasting coal. One tone only audible to toddlers, another only to dogs. Of course I reddened when those rich fools Googled me. The search results proved it true. Hits were legion. Not only that, the book had entered its fourth print run and was forthcoming in Russian and New Norse. That's when it occurred to me that I was late to deliver the keynote address at the annual summit for lovers of the triangle. My lecture on the sweeter octaves of beryllium copper, how to damp it for the rustle like the train of a bridal dress trailed over cobbles, or pidgeot, like the mice celebrating the owl's demise by lightning, or that ting so crystalline it's called frost creeping. So I jotted some notes, grabbed my jacket, and said, taxi. I thought I might try a very, very recent thing. Indulge me. It's kind of a homage to Buster Keaton, the great silent film star, stuntman of sorts. And it's called Prayer to Buster Keaton. Blessed Saint Buster, in the crispy reels I stream, you're stoic and all backbone, resilient as birch, bruises quadruple on set, but no wily switcheroos for stunt doubles. You slick tortoiseshell comb across your quiff, tumble lamb-like from the heights, divorce, drink, trampoline back in a fresh space, a cakewalk. No poppy inflects the great stone face, not farouche under the pork pie, more like a sieve for liquid instants of feeling, restrained and general. Whether perched on a cowcatcher, shunting railroad ties to sneeze from train wreck, you were dangerous, or that rooftop leap that went wrong very right. It was an accident you let grow up. Saint Buster, keep us from conniptions, keep us frisky and adaptable on this path of fluke and gamble, glorious fuck-ups I look back on and say, what luck. Check my time here. I started timing late, but I think I'm all right. So let's see. I brought two pig poems. I'm going to read a pig poem, and we're going to see where that gets us. And maybe I'll read the second pig poem for the time. This one is called Percy French. The dead pig brought me tremendous grief. Plumped down on his side like a pink beanbag full of bones, prickly flesh with its sparse, candied hackles and a jacket of lard in that little rogue eye. I rubbed him between the ears. I almost expected the tail to uncoil and wag. I didn't even pause to ask how he got into the apartment, 4 flights up, and died on the kitchen's sticky linoleum, with guests due to arrive any minute. The clinking wine bottles and heels preceded them on the stairwell. I fetched my carpenter's pencil quick and traced around the carcass, but it just wouldn't take. The nip kept skiing off. The party let themselves in. Oh, we know what's following our canapes, one smirked. Get that man out of my house, I said. No, I love that pig. I can't say in all our lives we really knew each other. Yet here he was, hard clay, wadded about his trotters. The crisply pleats of his torso flabbed like an accordion. So I gathered his bulk in my arms, scrunched him up the best I could, and played that song he liked. Another kind of I'll read this poem. If you feel like you're going slightly mad while you're hearing it, you probably slightly are. It's called Quiche. Pain is a basement cafe, and all of us are scrubbing our merciless scrub, said the lady in the bloody apron, looking through me. I'd asked for a slice of quiche with goat's cheese, and my finger was frozen on the sneeze glass. Either I can be your mentor, or you can wear pajamas. The mechanic yelled over the racket in his garage when I suggested egg white was no substitute for glue. He climbed under the hood and hasn't come out since. A fly on the wall is enough company for a lifetime, my mother insisted, while I stood above her on a stool tending that fuse box. She wore black all the time now. She kept spilling Lucozade on the dachshund in her lap. I was out in the shed, reaching back to oil the hinges that held my wings in position. It was hot work. The last hour will be our worst, my wife said, and when I soared, our children were quick red ants leading her from the scene. Next poem I'm going to read is, it was the 69th birthday of Matthew Sweeney last week, the late great poet, and a poem for him I'm going to read called Pinball, Matthew Sweeney. He let the oxygen mask slip from the crow's nest of stubble, so I leant in closer to catch that he didn't want a headstone. No wings, no spidery Gothic script. Instead, an old pinball machine should mark the place of his grave. He liked the plink under his thumbs. He talked bumpers, flippers, kickers, forbidden tilts, shooting for the moon. How a ball knocked out of bounds might come back, Lazarus, and win. I saw tournaments among the tombs. A horse box paused on the fresh earth. The generator set up to the side under that knuckle of hill in Donegal. He inserts the first gold coins by the yew trees under the moon, pulls the plunger, flashing outlanes pop and spark against the marble, focusing names and dates, gilt epitaphs and stone angels, watching high scores rack up. I know before the night is out, his initials will join the wizards. Are you ready for time?
I think not. Maybe one
One
more.
more, I think.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll read a short one to finish. Thanks very much for listening so attentively and appreciatively. You're very good. It's called Self-Checkout, this poem. He told me he got lost once in the aisles of the Tesco Express. Not physically disoriented, more as if a glitch occurred in the escapement of a timepiece. A wheel the size of a coffee bean scooting loose, and all gravity pressed down on that space. All the apples fell there. I think I know what he meant. He'd left the gaff for celery, not an existential brouhaha. Some days I know myself only in the way you consume a crisp green apple, keeping distance from the core. It is necessary to remember the hardy grain of the table in a kitchen in Aherlow, how it spoke to your elbows. I was once a seed so minute you could swallow me whole and not notice. Lean on me, be nourished. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dean. And now, Neil McCarthy, when you're ready, on YouTube. Brilliant.
No bother, thanks. Can the people in the pub hear me on Zoom?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Thanks a million. Again, just want to say the usual thanks for making this happen. just to echo what Massimo was saying earlier, it's amazing to be able to tune in from not as far away as the United States. I'm only over the Alps in Austria, but I can almost smell the Beamish from here. It's a bit torturous, actually, to be quite frank. There's two cameras looking at you, and one of them is looking down at the tables with pints of the black stuff. The closest I can get to it is something called hell. I love the German word for blonde beer is called hell. So I have a special hell tonight. And I know Ruth is eating a bag of Doritos, and I'm fucking starving here looking at her. Just fine. Just don't turn the mic on because then I can hear the Doritos, and it's, oh my God. I came straight from work. But so it's great to be here. It was really nice to hear Dean read, because I've actually been reading quite a lot of his poems. I'll see your pig poems and I'll raise you one. I used to live in Los Angeles, and I moved to Vienna from Los Angeles about 6 years ago. So it's been quite a while since I was in Cork, the Long Valley. But while I was living in Los Angeles, I wrote most of the poems in the first book, Stopgap Grace. So I was living in an area of Los Angeles where there were quite a lot of hipsters, and great inspiration. So I'll start with a poem for Dean called How to Kill a Pig. I expected them to tell me that my bacon had come from a happy pig, one that had had a full life, was corn-fed, had free range, did yoga in the mornings, played the cello, spoke Latin and learned to salsa dance while visiting relatives in Cuba. I thought maybe there would have been a photo album to accompany the sacrifice, documenting its first birthday, first snow, first of everything else, here an oink, there an oink. In far corners, I dubbed the mouths of others, their new voices out-battling the clattering gunnery of plates, slamming down organic everythings. I gifted one woman berating her phone, the French language, to make her all the more endurable. Sweet as raw cane sugar to my fair trade coffee, I had the young couple across from me, nattering fondly from their deathbeds, their soon-to-be left world, better off now than it was when they were younger. The child in the high chair wanted in on the action, breaking into les enfants et les sortilages, when faced with a spoonload of non-GMO beige matter. I used a sortilege of my own in stripping the walls clean and emblazoning the newspaper headlines all over them, just to see if anyone would notice, remark, or question that one glaring absence, as truth was led out the back, strung up by its hind legs, throat slit, and left to hang there until the last drop of blood spattered into the bucket. So that's a pig poem. Sorry about that. This is weird. Everyone's on mute, but hopefully you can hear me. I did an online poetry reading in California. I was on Zoom. So I got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because it was about 7 o'clock in Los Angeles. And there was the open mic first. Then they introduced me and turned everybody else's camera off. So all I could see was me talking to myself in the middle of the screen at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if anyone was there. It was weird and wonderful. Anyway, I'll give you one more pig poem. It's also for Dean. This is the last California poem, I promise. If anyone here is from California, I'm not bashing on you. Sorry, Catherine. This is a very original title of a poem. I just called it Bacon because it's about bacon. One of my best friends lives in Hungary. He lives in a village in Hungary called Salona, and if anyone speaks Hungarian, Salona translates to bacon. My best friend, this American guy, he's really, really Jewish, and he bought a house in a village called Bacon before he realized the translation. I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. So I wrote him a poem called Bacon. I ate tonight the best hot dog I've ever bitten into, wrapped in bacon served in a toasted roll with a caramelized onion and sweet chili thick as an iron gutter pipe. I hated every bite, bitter in the knowledge it was costing me $9 plus tax. The fact that it had been slid in my direction across the table by a tattooed arm attached to a man in a baseball hat who shook his fist and told me that my choice was awesome. I like to taste effort in what I consider awesome, to suffer penance through hunger and wait. And I blasted back to the langosh I ate after 3 hours straight as a passenger in the back seat of a car with no seatbelts, shuddering through Miskolc in the direction of Salona. You told me it translated as bacon, and I smirked at the irony, but bit my tongue and helped you unpack. While you took the gypsy proofing off the house, chopped the wood, aired the flumes, lit the fires, crushed the garlic, vacuumed the larvae from the windows, fixed the beds, fried the langosh, and opened the palinka. We ate that night the best bread I have ever bitten into, but not before bowing our heads in awe to the Spirit's holy gospel. It's a poem about bacon and palinka. So it's actually a beautiful combination. In fact, the last time, I don't know if anybody in the room has ever drank palinka. It's like poutine, except Hungarian. And in fact, somebody said, yes, good man. The last time I actually drank palinka was actually in Cork City. There was a poet featuring at Ovail called Denisa Piscu, lovely lady from Romania. And she had bought me a bottle of palinka. And so there was another guy in Cork City at the time, good friend of mine, Paul Selecki, good musician. We left Ovail after Christ knows how long, how many pints of Beamish, ended up in the Crane Lane and then walked back to the loch and drank a bottle of palinka. I woke up without pants and I don't know what happened to Paul Selecki's shoes. And it wasn't even our house that we'd slept in that night. It was brilliant. It was a great night. You should have been there. Maybe you were. If you were, don't tell anybody. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking to myself now. Moving on. I did have a new book coming out this year, but pesky germs. So the book has actually been pushed back another year by Salmon. No big deal. I'd like to be able to be there in person anyway, to travel around the various reading venues and meet you all in person. But technology has been a godsend in the meantime. So I've a few poems from the new collection. It's called Little Empires. I'm a father nowadays, and like growing up now watching kids is just it's an amazing experience. But it's not just that I'm not just writing about kids. Don't worry, I'm not going to read you baby poems now for the next 10 minutes. But it's kind of like kickstarted my memory of myself as a kid. So I'm writing a lot from memory at the moment, which is brilliant, because usually my stimulus, my inspiration has always been sitting in pubs or going to open mics and meeting people, and that's kind of been taken away from me the last 18, 20 months, like it has everybody. So it's been quite interesting to write from memory. So I'll start from the second collection. This is a shortish poem called We Didn't Read the News. This is about me muttering poems away to myself, as the bio said. We didn't read the news. I was at my usual booth, half a cold cappuccino in front of me, my daughter crawling over my lap in an attempt to crayon the paper I was reading. The man at the table across the floor looked like the prison warden from the Shawshank Redemption. What's his face? I'd seen him in a few things recently. He smiled, stared just long enough for it not to be awkward. Probably had a flashback of his little one doing the same thing some 40 years or so before. His wife lowered her newspaper too and looked over at my daughter, watery-eyed, as if picturing herself at the same age, not a care in the world, and more concerned with coloring things in than reading those little black shapes that make everyone angry. Bob Gunton, that was him. the true miscreant of the tale, that character you sit and watch and pray they get their comeuppance. I looked down at my table and hoped I hadn't stared back long enough for it to have been awkward. I took my daughter's tiny hand and guided her crayon straight across the front page of my newspaper, carved a waxy orange line through the column about war, added green to the political article, purple to the images of the Wall Street men transfixed by their sanctity of screens. We took turns shading a bit here, another bit there, exchanging crayons until the prismatic pages began to glow like a city at night, a metropolis viewed from a distant hill, where the engorgement of colors is just enough to help us briefly forget about those smaller, anger-inducing shapes from within. Everyone still hear me okay? Is it just thumbs up? Yeah, cool. That's great. I don't want to be too loud because my kids are actually asleep in the next room and there's a monitor right behind me. So if my camera suddenly goes black and it should be okay though. So yeah, I've been writing a lot from memory and not being able to get back to my home. I come from a small village, Union Hall in West Cork, and I've lost the accent over the years, you might tell, but it comes back after a couple of pints of Murphy's or something. But a good friend of mine, she lives in Lep. She sent me a photograph. She's had kids as well, and she sent me a photograph of her kids on a boreen. And it just like, this beautiful photograph of two children running down a boreen, nothing more innocent than that. And it took me back. So I wrote a poem, another original title. It's called From a Photograph of a Boreen in West Cork. Just from your photograph, I could smell the bowing foxgloves. Remember being so young that I had vowed to outgrow them. I could feel the ferns, the bucklers and the hart's tongues catching my shins as I waded chest deep through the fields, hopeful of finding a shorter than shortcut home. My empire was vast. A tangle of boreens from the lake out to the lodge, up past Donahoo's and over the brow of the hill where the western road ramped into the sky. Just from your photograph, I could hear the cars rounding Spitzy's corner, headlights briefly revealing the faces of dead musicians thumbtacked to my bedroom wall. I could feel Connolly's of Lep next door shaking from a band our parents prayed would never sneak into. There were people too, some long gone, others probably still cemented to the same corner of the bar, reliving with undiminished animation the afternoon Small John questioned whether the two lip-locked ladies were Lebanese. My bruises were fated, Leary digging me in the arm every time a yellow reg passed, leaving us to hitchhike some more, in wind, in rain, in jackets growing smaller by the forecast. Just from your photograph, I relived the music, the late nights, the freedom of parental trust 16 years in the making, how we clung to the arse of a warm pint for fear the next weekend would never come. I could recall the steps from Kathleen's corner to Fuller's Wood, hear the sound of herons at night in the trees across the harbour, how we broke into a sprint if headlines appeared on the far side of the bridge, lest we miss a spin to the only late bar for miles. My memories are kind, the bad ones dead and buried, dealt with, accepted, the good ones coming back for an encore every time they're summoned. Just from your photograph, I briefly remembered what it meant to be young, to be one day measuring myself against a foxglove and feeling indestructible, to be kicking a ball until it was too dark to see, to be growing up oblivious to the world, chest deep in its state of alarm, somewhere at the end of that boreen. Hopefully the Americans joining us know what a boreen is. It's a really small road with grass growing in the middle of it. Pam knows exactly what it is. It's one of those roads, if you're not used to it, you're inevitably going to meet a tractor coming the other way. It's a game of chicken between a Ford Fiesta and a tractor. I'm going to stay in West Cork, if you don't mind. Of course you don't, because you're there. Well, you're not in West Cork, you're in the PRC. I had a reading in Vienna about, Jesus, when was it? Fucking hell, time flies. About 4 years ago, I was doing a reading in Vienna, and I've a poem in my book about a quarry that I used to work in Castlehaven, just outside of Skibbereen. And the poem in the book requires a little bit of like accent work because I use the voices of some of the characters I worked with. And I thought, sure, grand, I'm in Vienna. Who the feck would know, you know? Because I don't really go to too many lengths to hide the identities of said characters. So I belted into this poem anyway in a bar in Vienna. And one of the ladies in the audience just happened to be the professor of English at UCC who lives next door to one of the men in question in the poem. My heart stopped. So I've stopped reading that poem in public, actually. But not to digress, in my second book, I have the follow-up to that poem. And that's what this is. And there's no accents involved, so it shouldn't offend anybody, except Donald Regan. So if Donald Regan is watching tonight on Facebook, I apologize in advance. This is another very, I'm not very good with titles. This is called The Day I Nearly Killed Donald Regan with a Bucket of a JCB. True story. The day I nearly killed Donald Regan with the bucket of a JCB had actually started well. A 7 a.m. cycle through Myris Wood, out past Reneen at full tide, trees electric with waking birds, tractors dieseling along the lanes to a creamery on its last legs. Verdant hedgerows thick with that baited combination of nettles and blackberries, honeysuckle and briars, a spangle of spiderwebs glistening in the dew, stitching them all together. Sounds like a John Spillane song already, doesn't it? That the measure of a real man was the ability to run a loaded wheelbarrow up a plank of wood into the back of a trailer is a memory not easily forgotten. I could say the same for Donald Regan's eyes, when the teeth of the bucket of the JCB I was driving came through the window of the cab of the digger he was sitting in. That was all 18 years of me, trying to prove I had more to offer the world than a wheelbarrow and a plank. I don't remember much else about that job apart from my daily cycle and that one particular incident that went unpunished. But if I quarry deep enough, I can still find a younger version of myself in a broken pair of boots, ripped jeans, cut hands, shaking on a bed of slate, doing his best to drown out the sounds of engines growling, glass cracking, steel scraping off of steel, but listening instead to the call of a corncrake in the adjacent field announcing his departure. So now, thank you. I can see visual clicks and claps. It's great. It's great that I can't hear because my kids will probably wake up. But anyway, it's nice like that. Thanks, Africa. The worst part now about reading is I can't look at the chat because I can see there's 30 messages in the chat window. I love listening to the 5-word challenge and then reading the messages. It was wonderful. I want to know what you're gossiping about now. So anyway, speaking about ripped jeans, I've only a couple of poems, don't worry, I'm not going to overgo the time. Yeah, I lived in Cork a little bit, but I used to take day trips from West Cork up to Cork City just to go secondhand clothes shopping. I don't know why, but there was, back in the early 90s, there was a rake of these cool secondhand clothes shops, especially down Carey's Lane. But this poem is something about that. It's called Goodwill Jeans. Goodwill is it's a, you know, Pam knows what Goodwill is. It's a secondhand store in America. It's where you donate stuff, and it's where English teachers like me go and buy clothes for cheap. This is called Goodwill Jeans. The summer I turned 15, I took a day trip to Cork on my own, armed with a few pounds I'd saved from my dishwashing job. I made a beeline for Carey's Lane, where I stopped to worship the buskers, then drifted amongst the vintage shops, not knowing how or why I had developed a preference for second-hand clothes. Maybe the wind chimes, the smell of patchouli, sandalwood, or the Grateful Dead making shapes in my malleable head. Fast forward 20 years. In the fitting room in Goodwill, I slip into another man's life, hoist his journey over my thighs, button him around my waist. He walks me onto the shop floor, does a twirl in front of the mirror, assures me that for $20 I can ride shotgun for a year, see the city the way he used to, exchange stories one ghost to another. I take him up on his offer, glide an allied resurrection out the door, into a city where 1 million people look straight through me. Thanks. Thanks very much. All right, I'm gonna do 2 more poems. This penultimate, second last poem, it's kind of based around the same time. I had a flashback during the summer. I don't know what it was like in Cork, but in Vienna it was 38 degrees Celsius, and we had to wear these things called FFP2 masks, which just made your whole face wet as you're walking around. It's like wearing a sauna on your head. But Vienna is one of these strange cities, like during the summer, one of these few capital cities that actually empties because everybody usually goes away to the mountains for cooler weather or down to the coast. And so I kind of wrote a poem about that. It's a little bit topical, a little bit dark, but heck it, we'll go for it. The poem is called Michael Stipe Dancing. This afternoon is up to nothing. A few locals flitting across the streets like an agitation of dragonflies on stagnant water. Slumber punctuated by the rumble of a tram's almost empty carriage. Arseless benches, faceless cafe windows. We've quarantined ourselves again, angling for agreement that you can't be expected to wear a mask in this heat. Even the birds have fucked off somewhere else. Tenantless trees drooping over bus stops, dragooning a drunk into deputizing with a song. He obliges. Eyes closed, he begins choreographing a permanent tan into all sorts of shapes. Suddenly, in a slowed-down scene, reminiscent of how a movie depicts the stillness of the moment before a bomb, I allow a flashback to play out. Remembering a man crush I had on Michael Stipe dancing, spinning, contorting, twisting. A few locals stopped to stare, pretzeled faces like wet cloths wrung. Perhaps different memories triggered, relived, missed in these precious seconds. We alchemize these moments, each to their own, mindful of how peace is as shatterable as stagnant water. How just one letter can make laughter slaughter, make an ape the apex, transform something we forge into something we forget, and how, in a flash, it's gone. In each other's eyes, a scatter of birds. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to leave you with just one short piece of nonsense, if you don't mind, just to kind of lighten the mood a bit. I just moved into a new apartment here in Vienna, but I moved in about 2 months ago. And sometimes you still get post belonging to the previous tenant. And that can be fascinating sometimes, especially when you open it and have a good read, which I do. Sure, why not? And so I just called this poem Wish You Were Here. And again, thanks in advance for listening. And I'm looking forward to the open mic after this. Wish You Were Here. I've so far received 2 postcards addressed to the previous tenant. One from Martin, sent from a highfalutin ski resort in the Swiss Alps. The other from some out-of-the-way Italian fishing village that nobody's ever heard of, except for Sandra, who wishes I was there. You can tell by either the detail or the sparsity of words how valuable a friend I am to each. Sandra, with fabulous reviews of views, tastes, and smells in meticulous microfont. Martin, with his barely legible scrawl assuring me he's alive and well and surviving the snow. If I had to choose, I picture a small car ferry gliding into the port, sailboat masts clinking in the breeze, yours truly ready to vault from the bow to the pier, Sandra waiting by the cabrio. And Martin, sure he can go and fuck himself, I say, slamming shut the trunk, eyes north, inviting an avalanche. All right. Thanks very much. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but thank you.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil McCarthy. That was a great poem to end with. It's a pity you couldn't hear the response because we all cracked up laughing. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your poetry with us. And Dean Browne, thank you also. Wow. Yeah. It's just so good to be back in a room with people and just the energy. Yes, feedback, Rab. Awesome. I really hope all of you online there are getting a sense of the atmosphere here. We're really just so delighted to be back together again. So, little housekeeping. Somebody left their phone in the toilet. This doesn't happen online. Does your phone have a little crack?
Yeah.
Oh, it's or
So the light comes in. Yeah.
So now, the open mic. We have to keep things. Yeah, we've got 50 minutes because we literally have to be out the gap by 11 o'clock. No. So we're going to mix it up. So I'm going to fly around the room asking you for your interest in the open mic. And meanwhile, the online people, if you type into the chat, open mic and your name, Paul is going to be making a little list of your names there. And in 1.073 seconds, we're going to start the open mic. Okay.
Yeah.
What's nice looking to your database of goals going, what is going to bring tomorrow? What's like back to back?
Okay, we're just going to get the open mic started and I'll keep going around gathering names. So we're going to start with Margaret O'Regan.
This one is written about Judge Wolfe. He was appointed as a Supreme Court judge, and this was after he had attended Golfgate, but before we knew about it, and then when it became public, of course, there was a big outcry. So it's called Wolf Whistle, and it's WOULFE. The wolf is glued to his chair, his seat not yet overthrown. From the four corners bustle, wigs and gowns rustle, finding against the Golfgate hustle. The chief has just served a missive, writ large to remove the wolf whistle, but the wolf is still glued to his chair. He swears he won't bow to peer pressure, lolls in his chambers at leisure, supremely supine in face of decline, no notion of what is in motion. From beyond his lofty dominion, round the four corners, public opinion.
know where you might like to put your wallet to wiggle out. And Mary O'Connell, you can be getting yourself ready. It's called washing the meltdown. In a sound way, your heart is full of light, as removes association from the beloved. Signals that coffee sings in a miniature box. Anxiety from separation is still cute as required. Irregular lighting not mattering in this crash. Sitting alone in classrooms above it all. Appropriate poison where one is engendered. Never left alone, suffering for artifice. Hospital in a sanctum, like the radio, to miss the DJ's voice you only would hear. Estimating flowers to somebody else's liking. The stinging cold is all I have now to savor. Crying in the dark, asking for it all. Local history bedevils the situation well. Throwing obligations at the devoured will. Slightest trace of vanity cornered to rest. I can never exist this. Crying through vast tax. Critical redemption meeting as a glory. Readily swapping points for a show of affection. Remaining quiet in the future of Paramount Act. Not enough for vodka, enough for catcalls. Card scrapers heads the bridge not far enough. Returning to the fold is probably the worst option. Magnificently turning over despair indeed. Thanks. Thank you, Mary O'Connell. Good to Mary. Well, it is lovely to be back. There is no doubt about that. This is just summing up, I suppose, what has been happening. Anyway, it's called Find the Silver Lining. When the horsemen of pestilence battered at our door, a biblical apocalypse descended on the land. Floods and forest fires returned to plague our fields. We contemplate extinction like those lost tribes of Peru. Confronted by catastrophe, a sudden loss of nerve, too many leaders held the view that they're above the law. The citizens they rule are left to struggle with betrayal. Perhaps charismatic locals might rebuild their broken trust. As we question the purpose of our passage on the earth, surely it's a moment to take stock, search for a better way. Now seems the time to leave the treadmill of accumulation, make a fundamental shift to save and renew our world. Enterprising workers in digital technology can forge grassroots connections, weaving magic through the web. Our screens may freeze, but often we can zoom into infinity, where new dimensions open, and we keep on reaching out. We saw how it was neighbors at the cold place of community who made a vital difference as a new awareness dawned. A wondrous transition from the local to the global can join us in a common quest to be the change we seek. And next we have Catherine Roman.
It's like a new beginning here tonight, so I'm going to read the very, very, very first poem I ever read at home. It's called Ballycotton Headland.
Oh yes.
Tantalizing rocks, nipples caressed by the sea, blue and relaxing largesse, it's rocking, dancing with the sky, whispering her own tune, blackberry wine explosions, rebirth, infinite footprints, narrow paths, going back to go forward, time travel to our old selves, holding hands again on Ballycotton Headland, column, we have each other.
We'll have Jim Prickard, and then we'll go to online folk. So Jim Prickard.
So I read the book by Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and it was like really poetic and like interesting. But what it inspired me to write was about customer service. Customer service shogun. I strategize my way through the call, like Sun Tzu in The Art of War, evading the outraged enemy with the stealth of politeness, feigning weakness to entice my foe to strike complaints like gunfire. When they have destroyed my decoy, they feel the arrogance of a false win. I have them right where I want them. The gorilla has entered my temper trap, beating their chest about how we charged an extra 40 cents this quarter. Undetectable as night, I pounce above a barrage of Donkey Kong barrels and rise higher than the heavens to throw the onus like an atomic bomb down on the customer, obliterating them with terms and conditions. Supreme victory is subduing the enemy without fighting.
I'll remember you the next time I phone up with it. Okay, can we go to the online participants now? And would Ruth like to share her poems, please?
Hey gang, how are you? Great night. Fair play to you all. So this is Growing Pains. Short, sweet. We'll go through it. 9 months shared. Harmony and symbiotic mutualism. Growth through fluid, stereophonic beat. 9 pounds puddled, skin on skin. Listen for heart, breath, pink and alive, sleep and stretch and sprout, little boy. 9 years huddled on my chest, tears fizz, stutter as shards of hate are found in skin. They call me, they say I'm no good, they tormentors' voices drown. You're deaf to whispered words of worth. Scooped up in arms, hear heartbeat. Rest in steadied pulse. Exhausted yawns. Together, pull. Invisible splinters, sleep. Stretch. Sprout, little man.
Thank you, Ruth. I hope you heard that applause. And next up, we'll go back to the room and we will have Roisin Leggett going, please.
Hey, this one is called Inside Pocket, and it's about holding on to something that really should be let go. I do not wear it now, his coat. Within the oxblood lining, there is an inside pocket, and in it I hide his voice. I used to slip my fingers in and take it out. Watch the soft palate undulating, enunciating the misshapen words he once gave me. I would hold it up to my ear, hear its bending rhythm, its pace as steady as a shovel slicing earth. I placed it under my nose once, inhaled its sound. Its smell lay somewhere between pipe, tobacco, and honeysuckle scented rain. But I wanted more. His tone, his fluency, his articulation. To feel the rush of air through his vocal cords, from my voice to become his. So I pushed it into my mouth. It sat there balanced on my tongue for a moment before my throat tickled, then tightened. I tried to swallow, but only stuttered. My mouth gaped open like an unfilled grave before the words let and go plummeted out. Caught for breath, I coughed it up. It landed on the floor, broken. I do not wear it now. His coat. Within the ox blood lining, there is an inside pocket, and in it I hide his voice stitched shut.
Thank you, Roisin. Lovely stuff. Next up, we will go back to the online participants and Sue Bloom.
Okay, thanks guys. It's lovely seeing everyone. I've chosen the autumnal theme, and it's a translation I made of one of Rainer Maria Rilke's poems. I didn't make this translation quite on my own. I was working with someone else online. His tag name was Arebol. So I'm going to present Rilke's poem first and then my translation. Herbsttag. Herr, es ist Zeit. Der Sommer war sehr groß. Leg deinen Schatten auf die Sonnenuhren und auf den Fluren lass die Winde los. Befiehl den letzten Früchten voll zu sein. Gib ihnen noch 2 südlichere Tage. Dränge sie zur Vollendung hin und jage die letzte Süße in den schweren Wein. Wer jetzt kein Haus hat, baut sich keines mehr. Wer jetzt allein ist, wird es lange bleiben, wird wachen, lesen, lange Briefe schreiben und wird in den Alleen hin und her unruhig wandern, wenn die Blätter treiben. Autumn day. Lord, 'tis time, for the summer was grand. Lay thy shades on the dials of the sun, and let the winds blow on the open land. Order the latest lush fruit to grow fine. Give them 2 warmer days to come round. Push them to the perfection and hound the latest sweetness into the heavy wine. Those without a home won't build one now. Those alone will stay so for a while, will wake and read, write letters that compile, and then shall wander on the tree-lined roads in restless striding where autumn leaves blow. Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
Nice one. So we look forward to having you back in the room again, maybe next month. Next up, can we have Augustina?
screen brightening. So once upon a time, I was really high in my garden, and the rain in Ireland is quite interesting, where when it usually starts, it starts to feel like a little bit of spitting, and felt like loads of kisses, thousands of them. So this is called 1,000 Kisses. It's actually 2 poems that are kind of merged into one. So yeah, you guys remember it. But you're impressed this time around. It's when you pause and breathe, you can feel how intimate it is to live in the moment. 1,000 gentle kisses all at once. Spit, 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 spit. Rain is love. Too much would flood, but just the right amount and everything bursts with green, pinks, yellows, and abundance. When the rain ceases, fires start. There is starvation. In some places, there is no sleep. People cry and pray for a blessing. Rain. Here is a fresh start. Here is nourishment. Here is abundance. Senses open, the scent of the fresh grass, self-purification, caressing gently, living and making love with my experience. I am alive. Isn't Mother Nature so intimate? Once scared to experience her intimacy, I learned through foreplay with her. Cold rain fizzed on my skin in my hot stone state. Inhaled her sweet nectar, allowed her to stroke my legs, and she embraced me. So my arms opened to her love, increased intensity, nourished by her pour, energized by her warmth, seeing her with her light, and even in her sogginess and stickiness and clinging. Making love can be easy sometimes, but it isn't supposed to be clean.
Thank you. Next up, can we have Lauren O'Donovan, please?
Before I get started, I have permission to do a very quick plug of this great book, not to sound too much like Trump. It's the same page ontology, and it was curated by the UCC creative writing class this year. There was no work experience, so they had nothing better to do. It is an anthology of poetry and prose and contains many authors which you will be familiar with. It's available in all good bookshops, and by that I mean Vibes and Scribes and soon to be Waterstones. It's €10 and 100% of the proceeds go to the Sexual Violence Centre Cork. So if you're looking for a stock day of it, arted by the wonderful Machines. Okay, so this poem I have to thank Margaret O'Regan for, who is known for her scintillating erotic content, but she shared a great article on Facebook, and then I was inspired to write this. Cliteracy. There is an organism with an organ of some function to orgasm. People with vaginas know that this should not surprise us. But science patriarchy shames us. They're embarrassed by our bodies, these bountiful bodies that have birthed all their babies, these bodies they admire, they desire, that they conquer like empire. They lick their lips and suck us dry like shriveled old vampires. They fill poor mags up with tits, but science books are full of dicks. Sketches of stiff penis etching superiority on our weakness. The penis proudly penetrates peer-reviewed publications, but the vulgar clit is just a footnote on a single page for vulva. O'Connell screams rebellion as she cuts up cold cadavers, traces strings of nerves from spine, and again, time and time. Each cadaver her brave soldier, battling anatomic inequality in this war against perversion that posits half of Homo sapiens should not perceive their sexuality, but instead perform pornography. Textbooks need to teach there is no orgasm without stimulation, contrary to what Hollywood has been selling for a generation. That last fact is not new to people with vaginas, but distributing it is critical to a clitoral revolution that calls not only for full consent, but full satisfaction too. We need to know that Wolf made a glitterous, a giant golden clitoris, and she marches in parades for us to educate gynecologists. Wolf wants her art to be irrelevant, for us to look at a giant golden clitoris and think only, wow, so many sequins, and not, what the fuck is this? She wants equality of autonomy, education of clitoracy. She wants to end the prejudice against people without penises. She wants to transform scientific misogyny into sexual equality, so we can gift a giant clitoris to our vagina-bearing progeny.
I have a feeling that the word equality might just.
That was awesome, thank you. And just to say, can we keep it brief? So if you do have a really long poem, try and save it for another day and trying to be short so we can fit everybody in. So next up, can we please have Browne McCarthy?
Thanks a lot. It's very special to be in this room with you all again. And then to have, just to be here again. This is in keeping with the swine theme and is in reaction to the late great Joe Sweeney's instruction to lighten up. I can't stand how we all sit while big brass balls and swinging dick scratches an itch, gets his kicks, a dopamine fix, dopamine prick, knows he'll get away with it, tall as the door, top the floor with only half the wit, sways a bit as he rounds to pick a pure to score and throws a fit when she ignores him. Has her own drying paper boredom, thought he'd come crying, ancient lord, to her royal highness of shyness, shifts in store, but just in momentum, stiff as a board, the signal sent him to the fridge door, can cracks a pour, get to the jacks and whip your hair back, stack your stocks and stretch your top knot, bends a hop, shadow box and flex what you've got. Fetch the muscle and hunting packs like an itchy jumper for rash attacks. Start a tussle with him looking past you, and how's your hearing last you checked? Sent to the deck like well chose vinyl, arrived expecting needing spinal. Back on the clock, business needs minding from the shock of teeth still grinding beneath the feet of flying Hymen. Step out a beat in half the time, wait till their eyes begin to shine. Witnesses not hard to find, but would need the gift of hindsight to recognize the limelight's been taken, squeezed into whiskey ginger. Fights are being shaken out and bones are there for breaking. Fingers being taken out to give their gums a rubbing. Augusta tubbing, the shade starts shading, wagging thumbs and taking statements. Taking aim to ascertain at whose behest the party started. The crack passed on like someone farted. Story here, boys, I ask pasty faces, nodding at the pulpit, broken braces. He's looking like an abstract painting. I'm not one for waiting. Never had a name for patience, neither does John, though I'm sure he'd take it. Waste no time with your explanation. I have a reputation to uphold. Say, how did these events uphold? Chest out, top knot, tames his jaw to rearrange what people saw, gives exotic names to the sex frustration. It was autoerotic asphyxiation. Couldn't be helped. Your man's a melt. Sure, look at this belt. We all said the rooms upstairs on at least go over there with the comfy chairs, but he was begging us to flail him. So we said we wouldn't fail him. You can't take it from me as a fact the lads and I aren't into that, but he was quite persuasive. We thought he looked stuck and sore, but he wanted more, asked to gag him with his sock, and would we get invasive? At this point, we had to stop. Things could have got abrasive. Then he absolutely caked it, fell on the floor. He came to the door. I'm sure he's going to make it. Not to worry, from here we'll take it. I'll leave it there.
Thanks God for that long poem. No more long poems, lads. Okay. Thank you. Oh, Kieran, that's wonderful. Next up, we're going to go back to the online folk. Can we have Catherine Baden?
Badan, but that's pretty damn good. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Are you ready for some West Coast poetry?
Yeah.
This is what I've been doing since the pandemic, and it's called Equilibrium. Equilibrium, equitable, equinox, equifax, equality and electricity, equilead, lithium, the scales of freedom and lady liberty, transformation of the Akashic records through modern day technology. Because I'm at the TV screen. I'm at the TV screen. I'm watching movies, not one or two, but three. See, I can change the channels and watch all three. That's how my attention span goes. That's how my attention span flows. I'm watching TV news. I'm watching TV news. I'm watching not one or two, but three. See, I can change the channels intermittently so I can watch CNN, MSNBC, and the BBC. That's how my attention span goes. That's how my attention span flows. Did I mention I have 3 TVs? So actually, I can watch up to 3 scary shows, 1, 2, and 3, and just look back and forth between the 3. I'm at the TV screen. I'm at the TV screen. I'm watching scary movies, not 1 or 2, but 3. See, I can look at all the channels intermittently. That's how my attention span goes. That's how my attention span flows. I'm watching comedy shows. I'm watching lots of TV news. I'm watching super scary movies, not 1 or 2, but 3. See, I can change the channels intermittently. Equilibrium, equitable, equinox, equifax, equality and electricity, equilead and lithium. The scales of freedom and lady liberty, transformation of the Akashic records through modern day technology. Thank you for letting me start this wonderful night.
It's like tonight, actually, because there's like a camera there, with green hair. Woo! There's people there. Woo! I'm with you. I get you. Thank you. Next up, can we have Philip Spillane, please?
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone. Yeah, it's great to be back. Vulva. Here, she wears the sound of tides rolling onto the shore. It's a portal, the strongest part of her, where she had changed into a woman. It's a citric place, diluted in milk, her center, watching as she walks naked comfortably around the bedroom. The curtain is wide open. She sits on the bed, her legs wide spread, and I am immersed, mesmerized, in love.
Next up, can we have Michelle Delay? We're back.
It's so good. All right, straight into it. No messing, no messing. This is for Philip. Thanks for making these. A field full of people, buzz like bees. It was the highlight of my year. It's called Undersea. Undersea, there are mountains, and you can float to their peaks. They will pass you up and up, where we break the glass with naked bodies. We're only straight. We're only starlight, straight chopped water, drying out and dripping, clung to your shoulder. You are wrapped in ocean, and these arms gone cold. The moon itself kisses the milky hill of your eye. Its light is low and creeps beneath your roving lashes, arrives at welcome eyes, I follow it in. Where wind is hasty and giddy and races through your unbrushed hair, like you were a forest it grew up playing in, and your limbs tire from staying afloat. You tilt away, lying weightless in my open palms. You request I hold you by the head, not to take the weight from your neck, but the pace from your thinking. You say, cradle me better, cradle me sinking, cradle me back to thinking nice things.
And now the lady next to you, Julie Field.
Wake us, Paul August Rosie. I wasn't going to read anything, but then I saw this one in my notebook and I said, fuck, why not? It's in honour of Jerry Murphy, People's Poet Laureate of Cork. Little does he know I have to send it to my reading. Jerry Murphy, if you painted him blue, he'd be a little bit smurfy. If you painted him red, a common tear of joy he'd shed. If you painted him yellow, he might just mellow the fuck out. If you painted him black, a fine pint of stout he'd make. And if you were to bake his flesh, broth his bones, to the acoustic tones of Simon and Garfunkel, you'd have a right old stew. On his tender words you chew, juicy humour drizzled in all its glory. Expect the rich cuisine to have you on your knees, crying out for rennies, crying out for more. Lactose intolerant need not apply. Spilt milk to be savoured from Margaret.
Next up, we have McCarthy, please.
Thanks, Creedon.
Sorry, Mike Creedon. I know another Mike McCarthy. He's not even here.
I'm the quickest one in this new man. But this one I just switched back. So it's about silence, and it's in its beauty and in its menacing threats. Screams sometimes. Sound out the void, plumb the depth. For silence comes in many forms, in fear, in threat. Curious, back radio silence. Wish, sip it, or feel the switch of the birch. Omerta, buy it, or sleep quiet with fishes. The aching maw of aged house caressed. Empty screams of years in solitary protest. Painful choke of broken trust. Silence of companions' trust. No need of words, saying here's enough. Silencio. The wordless vows of brother, sister. In eternal silence we trust. Wordless choirs of faithful servants. Omertas crawled around in circles. Shh, in stillness, night creatures hide in darkness, in burrows creep from urban razzles. Pureness, calme, tranquila, tranquila. Bathe in solace, drink in this silken peace. So many voices, many silent, quiet and close, harsh and distant. Once bristled with edge thought. No picture and no sound. Sound out the void, plumb the depth. For silence comes in many forms, in fear, in threat. In new words only audible in silence, suspended in the zoneless timeless. In the theatre of the multiverse, Achtung, quiet, quiet, and action.
Thank you, Mike. And next up, can we go to the online vote? And would Pam like to share a poem, please?
Thank you. Okay. It's called Firecatcher. Pink, white, oh, sorry. Firecatcher. We touch. Pink, white, life-lined hand. Orange, brown, scaly trunk. Living cells, skin to cambium, tingle warm. A palm print away, cling dog day cicadas. Light brown cast skin, ghost lifelike emptiness. How can I leave you? Blue-black silhouette, deep-rooted sentinel, dawn pronouncer, burned beginnings and endings marker. Great blue heron rested one-legged on your upright limb, one sunset to sunrise, birth grit and hope while invisible beams burned cancer. Each day I came, bone weary, forehead to bark, fire in my breast, pine-eyed balmed. How can I leave you? Look at what the rain has done. Long, flexible needles, dense bundles of 3, wake to emerald green. Clear rivulets run, brightens cracks and crevices like mountain hollers, dark-headed maiden flowering in harsh seasons, lifts song to blue scarf sky, brushes petrichor released earth, sunset burnishes bark, fiery red, piney loam, root draws our marrow, together we breathe. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. You probably didn't hear that, but the whole room went, Lovely. Next, can we please have Charles Clark?
A few lines. Not many left who slept in a feather bed under a quilt of colours at their grandmother's. I looked down at a terraced girl and waved entranced at the quilter. She, the wife-to-be of a gambler who gave his marker for £4,000 in the game of poker on a bad night in Killarney.
That's what I'm talking about, short and sweet. Lovely. Next up, can we please have Seamus Harrington?
Thanks, Rosie. Sure is great to be back. So tomorrow is budget day, but they won't tell us about cutbacks. That'll come later. Cutbacks. But it must run. We can't withdraw the course. It's expected, and enrollments are up. They've got a foot in the door. It's on the prospectus, subject to demand. A run on class materials? Rubbish. We'd be sued without a leg to stand on. Hand clapping and footstool step-ups in plimsolls were good enough once. Now we must put them all through their paces. We know the new floor permits only soft soles. There's a footnote here about that. But think of the cost if you were a parent of centipede twins. Who'd foot the bill? The board chairman will hear about this, I say. He's a weekly pedicuree, well known for his stance on PE and ability to think on his feet. Furthermore, his wife is a podiatrist, chief observer for the three-legged race, and founding chair of the Alumni Association of Millipedes.
So we're going to go back online now. Thank you, Seamus. And Matt Mooney, when you get a chance, can you share your poem?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just got on board with many difficulties and time problems earlier on and just missed it. Now I have a poem for you. It's called, a new poem. It's called The Tractor Man. Its tires as big as mill wheels, parked ready to go in front of a bevy of farmyard sheds on a hill down in West Cork. The idyllic green John Deere, a tall god of rubber and steel for tractor lovers in this age. Dwarfing one young admirer, hard for any little lad to climb its steep steps to a lofty cap. Tough when you're only two. Its antenna bay loader lifted, hurling the heydays ahead. There's a red right on moor in Grandad's garden far away. A lone flight for easy climbing. No dinosaur this time to fear. The little lad, the tractor man, gets up on his own John Deere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. We're glad you managed to figure out the tech stuff and were able to join us with stuff. So now, Conor McManus, can you, it's too long. Right. Trying to give us. Okay. Well.
We have to be out in 4 minutes.
We have to be out in 4 minutes. Okay, so we're going to end the night with the 5-word champ. Massimo, send us home.
Thank you so much for having me. But one thing I want to say, I would be happy to defer to the gentleman who's live, who wants to read his poem, because I'm just so happy that people are in person again. So if you'd like to read your poem, sir, you know, I'd be happy to share my name.
Massimo, I think Connor's is going to be about 5 minutes long, so you take it away. It's good. It's nice to have the online and the real thing all, and to end with the online, because the online is what kept us going through the madness.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to be here. Real quick, this is based on an African-American tradition of preaching. And there's a saying that says, "Tarry ye here for just a while." So that is what this poem is based on. So, hear ye, tarry here a while. Tarry ye here, little child. Don't carry your crucifix another mile, if the race you run was won on your arrival. Why did you have your innocence put on trial, just to insert self-hurt in your style? Why play the bridegroom who wept down the aisle and turn your love story to a test of denial? I don't care what they told you in the Bible. Your sweet self is no sin to revile. God is too strong for your wrongs to defile, so smite that guilt where is your sweet smile. I know you seek a goal that is final, a whole world of suffering that you reconcile. But before you become a part of its spiral, I beg you, tarry ye here for just a while. Sleep some, dear child, eat something. Hear the lovebirds singing and the bees humming. Hear the little children playing and the leaves rustling. Feel the peace and joy in your heartbeat thumping. See the sunshine shine in the sky and how it overcomes all on the by and by. doesn't suffer, doesn't struggle, doesn't try, yet its light gives life each day to you and I. Even stars that we see in the darkness are not blown apart from the light that they harness, to show us that light bearers need not be martyrs. Our Creator is not a masochist, just an artist. So before you keep praying and fighting, tarry ye here for a gentle reminding that without loving yourself, how could your love profit anyone else? All right, thank you. Peace, peace, peace.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank you, all of you online participating tonight and being part of our first hybrid event. Thank you all in the room. Dean Browne, thank you so much. That was an amazing reading. Neil McCarthy. Thank you all. Good night. Yeah.
Thanks, Rosie.
See you next month.